We are having our apocalyptic moment with this.
Sorry, keep going. I'll catch up.
All right. So, some people will say, well, look, that prophecy was fulfilled. Some Jewish people went back to the land. You have that in Ezra and Nehemiah. But that prophecy wasn't fulfilled in the kind of way that Ezekiel talked about. For example, in chapter 36, verse 24, it says, "For I will gather you up from all the nations and bring you home again to your land." You know, it was not until 70 AD that the Jewish people were scattered completely throughout the whole world. And it was not until 1948 that Jewish people from all over the globe began to gather up and return to the land of Israel. Well, there we are. Good work, tech crew. And in fact, that has been part of Israel's foreign policy, is to find groups of people, Jewish people, and bring them back to Israel. You know, that was a big part of their foreign policy with Russia, with other countries as well, with small minority populations of Jewish people. Now, let me just give you some numbers. In 1949, the population of Israel was 806,000 people. In 2005, the population was 7 million. A little over 5.5 million of those being Jewish. The number of Jewish people living in Greater Tel Aviv outnumbers the number of Jewish people living in New York City. Well, actually, I'll number the whole number of Jewish people in the United States, just within the area of that one city. So, all that is to say, we have seen a prophecy fulfilled. Put a little check mark next to restoration of Israel. It has happened. Now, when we get to chapter 38, there are all those really weird names that Jeanette was actually doing a very good job on. What we have in chapter 38 is talking about this big, gigantic battle that's going to happen. So you have Gog of Magog, and Persia and Push and Gomer, and what's that other one? The Beth Togarmah, or whatever it is. They all get together and they move south and they threaten Israel. Israel is standing by itself, looks as if it will be wiped out, and God intervenes and completely destroys this enormous army. That's the Battle of Armageddon. Now, I've never taken that seriously because all those funny names sound like they belong in a fairy tale. Yeah, for goodness sakes. Magog, Gomer, shoot. There aren't any countries named that. The thing that has caught my attention is that base on textual, historical, and linguistic. I used to be able to say that word. Linguistic evidence. I mean, there is some actual hard scholarship that you can point to identify the modern countries represented by those funny sounding names. I never thought it would be possible. Very quick. It is based on textual, linguistic, and historical evidence. There is a very good likelihood that Magog refers to modern-day Russia. Ezekiel in chapter 38 talks about the country to the far north of Israel. What is that country? It is Russia. It is a country to the farthest north of Israel. Take a look at a map. Therefore, Gog is probably a title. We might use the word czar. Gog would be a powerful leader of Russia. Persia. Persia is undoubtedly Iran. It hasn't been until 1920, 1930 that we ever referred to Persia as Iran. Cush, the Bible that Jeanette read from, translate that as Sudan. It could also include Ethiopia, maybe Eritrea. Put, again, was translated as Libya. Could include Algeria and also Tunisia. Gomer, probably Turkey. There are also people who argue that it would also include Germany and Austria. I'm not as convinced of that, but definitely refers to Turkey. Beth Togarmah, Turkey, Armenia, and definitely the countries that we refer to now as the stands. Kyrgyzstan, whatever the rest of those are, former Soviet entities. Sheba and Dedan, they occur later in chapter 38, refer to the Arabic Peninsula. We're not sure. Ezekiel's not clear if they joined the coalition or if they are perhaps in sympathy with it. But when you look at that, there is evidence, again, you can point to. First of all, Iran is unquestionably involved as the primary ally of Gog, of Magog. And then, some of those would be no surprise whatsoever.